This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
Tom Murphy now joins us here on the Morning Rush, Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, Whole Hog Sports. Tom, good morning. It's definitely a good morning for Cowboys fans. First road playoff win in 30 years. I was surprised. What stood out to you last night in the Monday Night Football matchup?
I don't know. Just a good game plan, well executed after last week's puzzling performance against the Commanders. But the NFL is week to week, man. I have a buddy who's a big Cowboys fan, and he was very nervous about last night. And me not having a dog in that hunt, so to speak, I felt pretty confident the Cowboys are going to win the game. The Buccaneers were a team that had a lot of problems this year. I mean, they won a bad division, and I know my team's in it. And even though the Buccaneers were at home, and you could argue whether or not they deserved a home game, but I don't know. And I'll tell you this. Some of Brady's throws, like he was like on the wrong page with his receivers. There were so many throws that were not even close to being catchable. It was a weird showing in a playoff game for a team, a player, and a franchise that had been on point in recent playoff history. It was a head scratcher, and I think a lot of that was due to the Cowboys defense, and of course Dan Quinn, former Falcons head coach, who stands up in the press box as he calls the game with his cap backward, was a big part of that.
Let's talk about Tom Brady. A lot of times when the Dallas Cowboys are featured in the game, they're the number one story, but maybe last night a little different. There's question marks about if Tom's done after this. Do you anticipate him playing another down in the National Football League?
You know, he threw the big curveball on the media with the retirement and then return. And so I don't even hesitate to speculate on what he might do. And you know what? He's had a really great run. If you're him, you don't want that to be your last playoff performance because it was kind of unsightly. But I bet physically he feels like he would have another season in him. So I'm sure there'll be another big drama during this coming off season.
Yeah, but 10 years from now, when we think of Tom Brady, we won't think of last night. We'll think of all the Super Bowls when it comes to him. All right, so staying or going, that's what we're asking about Tom Brady. I think there's some people asking that about Kendal Briles this morning, Tom, and there's more internet speculation circulating around Kendal Briles and the TCU job. What are you hearing, and what's your gut tell you about Kendal Briles' future?
Well, my gut feels like it might be. I mean, obviously there's interest there. He's a Texas guy, and perhaps this is for his dream fulfillment, or heading toward his ultimate goal to be a head coach. Would get him closer to there because he's back in his home state. However, if you look on the reporting out of Texas regarding this, TCU fans are, they're really split up on whether or not the Briles name carries a certain thing in TCU circles based on the rivalry between TCU and Baylor and Art Briles, and there were dust-ups between Briles and Gary Patterson. Now, does that taint the son's name? It really shouldn't, but yet it's there. And so I think, Sonny Dykes, even if he might really prefer to hire Kendal Briles, has probably gotten some pushback, probably some prominent boosters as well. So it's just been kind of a slow motion thing for the last several days, and we'll see where it leads. I would like to see Kendal Briles back. I've said it on this air many times. The productivity, what he's done with KJ, the decision making, all that kind of stuff. I mean, Arkansas's got a legit offense, and if they had just been, marginally better with red zone scoring this year, they would have been. And as it is, weren't they the number 16 offense in the country? I mean, when you're going against an SEC schedule, and a schedule that was truly unrelenting when you think about Cincinnati, BYU, Liberty, the out of conference games, and then against Bobby Petrino, it was a schedule unlike any we'll probably ever see again, and yet they averaged more than 230 yards a game on the ground and in the air. with that.
Which is what makes him an attractive candidate for Mississippi State, now TCU. And we've been kind of kicking around this morning, which is the better offensive coordinator post? Is it in Fayetteville in an SEC Western Division school, or is it TCU in a Big 12 conference that's downgrading? Some people don't think conference matters anymore. Maybe being in the Metroplex matters more than we think. But which is the better gig? If you're an offensive coordinator out there, is it the SEC in Fayetteville, or is it be the new Big 12 in TCU?
Yeah, that's a great debate. And, of course, the conference is changing in the Big 12 as well. So you got that component to add in. I mean, there's various points to this debate, right? Do you want to live in the bigger city? Do you want to prove yourself in the SEC, which has really been dominating college football, if we're honest, for the last couple of decades? And so, what about the lifestyle for your family? Do your kids love it here? And I think Kendal Briles' family does love it here. So a lot of factors to weigh in. Obviously, his home state is Texas. And so it kind of depends on, what station of life you're at, where you want to get to, and which of those programs or situations best fits your needs.
So you referenced Harbaugh at Michigan. He announced that he is coming back to Ann Arbor. And I wonder if you're a Michigan fan, Tom. I mean, do you just want him to move on already? Because it seems like every single offseason he contemplates leaving for the NFL.
Well, I mean, his name does carry some weight, having, a playoff history with the 49ers and what he's done on the pro level and what he did at Stanford. I mean, it's all quality work. He's a little bit peculiar, and so I'm sure it's a split fan base at Michigan. But I bet Michigan fans the last 2 years getting the glory back, so to speak, and getting real close, they probably like to see if he can carry one of these to a national championship. And the thing is, up there, Ohio State and Michigan, the rest of their conference schedule. There's some tough games along the way. Penn State, when Wisconsin or Iowa's up, they can be tough. But the meat of your conference schedule is nothing like what you face week to week in the SEC. And in the West, it's every weekend. You can't have a slip up. I mean, Florida lost to Vanderbilt this year, and Georgia had a absolute dogfight up there in Missouri this year, which, in some ways they could have or should have lost that game. And so that's why I think Ohio State and Michigan, it just feels like a cleaner path to get to the playoffs. And, I'm going on at length about this, but if you're a Michigan fan, you when you're this close to a championship, I think you kind of want to ride that coach out and see what he can do. You
mentioned the SEC. Kirby Smart might have to hire a new offensive coordinator. Todd Monken also getting NFL looks. Bill O'Brien potentially could go back to the New England Patriots with Bill Belichick. If you were a prospective offensive coordinator, which job would be more attractable to you, Bama or Georgia?
Oh, man. And again, that goes to your station in life and, which of those two coaches you want to work with. I mean, they're basically from the same tree, right? And they basically don't let their coordinators talk to the media. How important is that to you? Word is that, if Kendal Briles is back here next year, there might be more media opportunities with him. We'll see. But it's basically half a dozen of one and six of the other, right? With Kirby and Nick Saban. How well will you get along with him? Are you going to have a relationship where, like Lane Kiffin on the sideline, where there's a little bit of open confrontation, or with Kirby? So I don't know. It's about the same. Right now, Georgia's got the cachet and the hot name, back-to-back championships, so to speak, have overtaken Alabama. But Alabama's talent isn't going anywhere, and I'm sure Jalen Milroe or some other guy is going to be a very high-caliber quarterback for them next year.
Tom, man, what's going to happen with this basketball team tomorrow night, 8 o'clock? These games feel more and more like must-wins. They got Missouri and then Saturday a home game with Ole Miss. This feels like an important stretch, and if they're not successful, we may be talking about just making the tournament.
Man, yeah, and I think on Thursday I said I didn't feel like Vanderbilt. You could label it must-win, but it's getting a lot closer. I thought Missouri's game plan here was tremendous, the way they drove the ball. I think Arkansas has just got to be better at stopping the ball on defense. And then Eric Musselman said something about the competitive nature. And if you look at the game against Vanderbilt, there were some shots that went up where guys, as soon as the shot was taken, are standing in the position they were in when the shot went up and not going to block out or following their own shot. And is that due to some of the key guys playing a ton of minutes? I don't know. But, basketball games, there's plenty of timeouts. I think it's an effort thing in some cases. And certainly they weren't lacking in offense the other day. So I think the three-point shooting was encouraging, but allowing 63 points and a half is basically just unconscionable for an Eric Musselman team. So I think you're going to see a better defensive effort against Missouri, and I think we're going to see, the care factor. How much do these players care? Need a little bit more Jordan Walsh, and I think you need a little bit more from the guys on the bench. Jalen Graham has a big game against Bama, really keeps Arkansas in it with his offense, and then his minutes are way back down against Vandy. So just looking for some consistency here.
A game where you score 84 and you make 7 threes should result in a win. I mean, there's just no way around that. Home, road, I don't care, playing on Mars. Arkansas and this team is good, has the ability defensively to win any game with 84. That's the most disappointing thing about Saturday.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you there, Tommy, and I do think you can kind of sense it from Eric Musselman's post game, that a little bit of frustration with the competitive factor, giving up so much on defense. And you look at what Alabama and Vanderbilt did back to back; their guards just powered into the lane and created stuff. And so, teams that have multiple guards that can do that are going to be a problem. Ricky Council's playing out there, but he's more of a heavy set, a bigger guy, and the foot speed thing comes into play. Now, Devo has done well locking guys down. He did a great job in the first half on Brandon Miller, who we saw blow up on LSU. So, I don't know. It's going to be how much do you want this? We've seen the Eric Musselman teams that were below 500 each of the last 3 years, each of the last 2 years, really fight back and get a lot better and really become a tough team to beat. And the coaching skill and all that is there. How much can they buy in and make movement is the question.
Tom, we'll leave it there this morning, man. Appreciate your time, and we'll talk more NFL on Thursday, okay?
You betcha. Sounds good. See you.
BetOnline remains your number one source for all your sports betting this season. Everything from the NFL and bowl season to esports. You'll find the latest odds, team matchup info, player news, and game trends at BetOnline. BetOnline features live betting, free contests, and live scores for almost any sport or game imaginable. We're the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite leagues and events. Head to betonline.ag to join and receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Make sure to use the promo code BELIEVE to receive your rewards. That's BLEAV. BetOnline, where the game starts.